Hey guys, this is Reed. For the next video for Tableau, we're going to show you how to import data and get it cleaned up so that way you can use it to create effective visualizations without having to monkey around too much beyond the initial time you open it. So this is the data that I'm going to be using to show you. It's the project data that I have for my version of the class project. So as you can see, there's 3 sheets, and we have our layoff data, our hire data, and sheet 3 is the Dow Jones Industrial Average. Now, I've already gone through in Excel to make sure that my dates match up between the 3, and the reason for that is I'm going to be using date to link all of my sheets for the remainder of my project in Tableau. So now if we jump over to Tableau, the first thing we're going to do is want to make sure we're at the start screen, and we want to go over here to connect. We're going to connect to an Excel file. Now, I've saved this file in my documents, so I can double click and Tableau is going to begin processing it. So up here you can see that right now we're connected to Read Project for Tableau, and that's fine for right now. The first thing that we're going to do is pull in our hire data, and for now, until I'm sure that I'm happy with the data, I want to make sure my connection's live. And this is just that way if I have to go back to Excel to change something, it'll update in Tableau for me. Now, because of how this imported, right now I don't have field names. So as you can see, instead of telling me which field I'm looking at, I have F2, F3, F4. Tableau includes a feature called Data Interpreter that will clean this up for us. And thankfully it's not a permanent change, so if you're unhappy with how it worked, you can undo it. But right over here I'm going to click Use Data Interpreter, and it's going to look at my Excel sheet and pick out the data that it wants to use for headers, and just overall do a cleanup to make it a little more user-friendly. This may take a few seconds depending on the size of your data, so if you have a large data source, be sure you're using a fairly new computer. Okay. So as you can see, that took about 30 seconds for Tableau to do it, but for me it was worthwhile because instead of having to go around and change my initial sheet, it has all the correct headers in here now. The second thing I'm going to do is, because I want to look at the hire data, the layoff data, and the Dow Jones, I'm going to pull in another sheet. And right now I am doing a single connection. You have a few options here, but we'll just do inner for this project. If you need specifics about this, feel free to ask and we can go into more data. But for an intro video, we're just going to be linking to one thing, and we want to do it through date. So now what this is going to do is it'll tie my hires and my layoffs to the same date, so that way if I'm putting them in a chart together, the dates will line up. And we're going to close out of that and throw in our final connection. And this is the Dow Jones Industrial Average. And again, I want to connect it based on date. So now down here, we can go through and look at our data, just make sure it's all lining up based on what we're expecting, and make sure that it's all here. So now that I'm happy with it, I'm going to go and make my first worksheet. And so for your first worksheet, it's usually worthwhile just to kind of mess around and see what measures came up for you and what dimensions. As you can see, date is in all 3 of them, and it won't matter which one we're using. So if we just wanted to look at a bar chart of hires in arts and entertainment based on year, we just drag the 2 of those there, and it'll create a line graph for us. And to make it a bar chart, we'll come here and change it to bar. That's all we're going to show in this first video, and in subsequent videos we'll show you how to make all different types of visualizations. Thanks guys.